My stepmom and stepsister framed me for stealing, so Grandpa exposed their scam and disinherited my dad to give me the family legacy and justice after he chose them. I was 17 when my life completely fell apart. To be honest, things had not been great for a while. My dad and I were not exactly close, and his marriage to Carol, my stepmom, only made things worse. But what happened that day, I still replay it in my head, wondering if there was ever anything I could have done differently. Let me back up a little. My stepsister Ashley was the golden child. She was 20 at the time, 3 years older than me, and had this way of getting everything she wanted. She was one of those people who could do no wrong in the eyes of adults, especially my dad. Meanwhile, I felt like I could not breathe without someone accusing me of doing it wrong. I learned early on to keep my head down and stay out of the way, but even that was not enough. Ashley hated me. I do not use that word lightly, but it is the truth. She had this venomous energy around me that I could never understand. I tried being nice when I first moved in with them, but it did not take long to realize it did not matter what I did. She just did not want me there. And Carol, she only made it worse. If Ashley said the sky was green, Carol would be out there arguing with NASA to back her up. It was little things at first. Ashley would borrow my stuff without asking, makeup, clothes, even my phone charger, and then play dumb when I confronted her. If I complained to my dad, Carol would swoop in, twisting the story to make me sound unreasonable or selfish. "She is just borrowing it," she would say. "Why are you always so dramatic?" The worst part was that my dad believed them every single time. I think part of him was just relieved not to have to deal with the fallout of his divorce from my mom. He would latch on to whatever story Carol fed him because it was easier than dealing with me. If you asked him, I was the problem child, just like my mom. He liked to throw that one around a lot. "You are just like her," he would say whenever I dared to speak up. He never said it like it was a compliment. So, by the time the watch incident happened, things had already been building for years. My dad had this watch, this ridiculously expensive, custom-made thing that my mom had given him back when they were married. It was not just a watch to him, it was sentimental. One of the few things he kept from their marriage, though he would never admit it outright. He wore it on special occasions and polished it like it was some kind of family heirloom. I did not even realize the watch was missing until I came home from school one day and walked straight into a storm. My dad was pacing in the living room, his face bright red. Carol was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed, glaring at me like I just committed some terrible crime. And Ashley, she was sitting off to the side looking way too innocent. It was the kind of innocent that practically screams guilt, but my dad never saw it that way. "Where is it?" My dad barked the moment I stepped inside. I froze, confused. "Where is what?" The watch," Carol snapped like I was being difficult on purpose. "Do not play dumb, young lady. Ashley saw you sneaking around in your dad's room." "What?" I was not. My brain scrambled to catch up. I had barely been home that week except to sleep. The only time I had even gone near their room was to grab the cat when she bolted upstairs. I did not take anything. Ashley nodded, her expression all fake concern. "So, I saw you coming out of Dad's room the other day. You looked sketchy." "Sketchy? Really?" That is what she was going with. "And I did not take your stupid watch," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but I could already feel the panic setting in. "My dad did not even know it was gone." Carol shook her head, her lips curling into that smug little smirk she always wore when she thought she had won. "And you have been acting strange lately, ever since the cat died. Maybe you were looking for attention." I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My cat, my childhood pet, had passed away the week before, and I was still grieving. She had been with me since I was 3 years old, the one constant in my life when everything else fell apart. And now Carol was using that against me. I could not believe it. "And I am not looking for attention," I shot back, my voice shaking. But my dad cut me off before I could even finish. "Enough," he shouted. "I have had it with your nonsense. First the attitude, and now this. You are just like your mother, a liar and a lunatic." My heart dropped. I could feel my throat tightening, tears threatening to spill over. "She did not take it," I whispered, and he swore, but he was not listening. He never listened. Carol was already packing up my things, throwing them into a bag like she could not get me out of the house fast enough. My dad stood there, arms crossed, watching it all happen. Ashley stayed on the couch, not saying a word, but the smirk on her face said it all. "Get out," my dad said, his voice cold and final. "Go to your mother, see if she will have you, but you are not staying here." I begged him to reconsider, to at least hear me out, but it was no use. He had made up his mind. To him, I was guilty, and that was the end of it. By the time Carol shoved the duffel bag into my arms and slammed the door behind me, I was too numb to even cry. I walked to the bus stop in a daze, replaying the whole thing over and over in my head. How could my dad, my own father, throw me out like that over a watch? I did not know where else to go except my mom's house. She was not exactly stable. She had her own issues, but at least I knew she would not accuse me of being a thief. My mom was surprised to see me, but not in the warm, comforting way you would expect. She was not the comforting type. Her reaction was more like, "Well, what did you do this time?" "I did not do anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And Dad thinks I stole his watch, and he kicked me out." She gave me this look, the kind that says, "I do not believe you, but I am too tired to argue, and you can stay here," she said. "But do not expect me to fix your problems. I have got enough on my plate." That pretty much set the tone for my life for the next few years. My mom's place was not much of a home. She lived in a tiny apartment that smelled faintly of cigarettes and mildew, with peeling wallpaper and creaky floors that groaned under the weight of your footsteps. It was always a mess. Papers piled on every surface, half-empty coffee cups forgotten on the counter, and a sink that seemed permanently full of dishes. But it was better than being on the streets. I spent that first night on her old lumpy couch, staring at the ceiling. The events of the day played on a loop in my head: Ashley's smug face, Carol packing my bag, my dad's cold eyes as he told me to leave. I kept thinking, how could he believe them over me? But no matter how many times I asked myself that, the answer was always the same. He never really wanted me there to begin with. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my mom arguing with someone over the phone. I did not have to guess who it was. She had plenty of people in her life to argue with. Old friends, old flames, landlords, the electric company. When she was not fighting with someone, she was either chain-smoking on the balcony or binge-watching whatever trashy reality show was on. She was not a bad person, but she was not exactly stable either. I tried to make myself useful around the apartment, partly to earn my keep, and partly to distract myself. I cleaned up, did the dishes, and helped sort through the mountain of unopened mail on the kitchen table. My mom did not say much, but she did not stop me either. It was her way of saying thanks, I guess. School was my only escape. I was in my senior year of high school, and while most of my classmates were worrying about prom and college applications, I was just trying to survive. I got up early every morning to take the bus, spent my days keeping my head down in class, and worked part-time at a fast food joint after school to save up some money. It was not glamorous, but it was something. The hardest part was pretending everything was fine. I did not want to tell anyone what had happened, not my teachers, not my Kio workers, not even my friends. I was not close to a lot of people, and the few friends I did have did not really know what my home life was like. They thought my dad was strict, sure, but they did not know about the constant tension, the feeling that I was walking on eggshells every second I was in that house. I tried reaching out to my dad a few times in those first few weeks. I left him voicemails, sent him texts, even wrote an email explaining everything. I told him I did not take the watch, that I would never do something like that. I begged him to at least hear me out, but he never responded. Not once. That hurt more than anything else. Not just that he did not believe me, but that he did not care enough to even ask for my side of the story. He had made up his mind and I was just gone. Meanwhile, Ashley and Carol were living their best lives. I saw pictures on social media. Ashley at some fancy brunch. Carol showing off a new handbag, and it made me sick. They did not just win. They got to keep living comfortably while I was struggling to scrape by. It was not fair, but what could I do? They had my dad wrapped around their fingers, and I had nothing. My mom, for all her faults, did not make me feel like a burden. Not exactly, but she was not exactly a warm presence either. She had her own issues to deal with, and I was just another body in her already cramped apartment. She let me stay as long as I kept out of trouble, but it was clear I could not rely on her for much beyond that. Still, I kept going. I graduated high school, which felt like a miracle in itself. My mom did not come to the ceremony, but I did not expect her to. It was just me sitting in the back row with the other kids who did not have a cheering section. I did not even have anyone to take a picture with, but I was proud of myself for making it that far. After graduation, I worked full-time at the fast food place while saving up for college. My mom did not have the money to help, and my dad, forget it. He did not even acknowledge my existence anymore, but I managed to scrape together enough for community college. And eventually, I transferred to a university. It was not easy. Nothing in my life ever was, but I made it work. Over time, the pain started to dull. I stopped checking my phone for messages from my dad. I stopped thinking about Ashley and Carol, about the life they stole from me. I focused on myself, on building a life that did not depend on anyone else. It was not much, but it was mine. 4 years passed like that. I graduated from college with a degree I was actually proud of and got my first real job. It was not glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me a sense of independence I had never had before. My mom was proud in her own way, even if she did not always know how to show it. and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was starting to move on. Then, out of the blue, I got an invitation to my grandpa's 75th birthday party. I was not sure what to think at first. After everything that had happened with my dad, I had not expected to hear from anyone on that side of the family. But Grandpa had always been different. He was not like my dad or Carol. He had helped me out a couple of times when I was really struggling, sending money without asking questions. He was not rich, but he cared in a way that felt real. So, when I saw his name on the invitation, I could not say no. I owed him that much. Still, the thought of seeing my dad again made my stomach churn. What would I even say to him? Would he apologize? Pretend nothing had happened? I did not know, but I decided I had to face it, not for him, for Grandpa. Walking into Grandpa's 75th birthday party felt like stepping into a time capsule, but one filled with tension instead of nostalgia. The farmhouse he rented for the celebration was beautiful, a big open yard with string lights, folding chairs set up under a white tent, and tables filled with homemade food. For anyone else, it probably looked like the perfect family gathering, but for me, it felt like a minefield. I had not seen my dad, Carol, or Ashley in 4 years, not since the day I was thrown out. As I parked my car and sat there staring at the entrance, I could already feel the lump forming in my throat. Part of me wanted to turn around and leave. But the invitation was not from them, it was from Grandpa. He had always been the one person on my dad's side of the family who genuinely cared about me. I could not let my fear of seeing them ruin his big day. When I stepped inside, I immediately regretted not bringing a friend for moral support. The first people I saw were distant cousins and relatives I had not spoken to in years. A few smiled and waved, but most barely recognized me. I felt like an outsider, like I did not belong. But then I spotted Grandpa standing near the drinks table chatting with one of his friends. He looked so happy. His face lit up with the kind of joy you only see on someone who is truly content. "Hey, Grandpa," I said, walking up to him. His face lit up even more when he saw me. "There is my girl," he said, pulling me into a big hug. "I was not sure if you would make it, but I am so glad you did." "Of course," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I would not miss this for the world. He squeezed my shoulder and introduced me to a few of his friends. For a little while, I felt okay, even comfortable. I stuck close to him, avoiding the tables where my dad and Carol were sitting. I had not seen them yet, but I could feel their presence in the air, this invisible weight pressing down on me. Eventually, though, I could not avoid them any longer. It happened while I was grabbing a plate of food. I turned around and there they were. My dad, Carol, and Ashley sitting together at a table, laughing like they did not have a care in the world. My stomach dropped. It was not just seeing them again, it was how normal they looked, like the last 4 years had been a vacation for them while I had been clawing my way back from rock bottom. My dad caught my eye first. His face froze for a moment, like he was not expecting to see me. Then he quickly looked away, pretending I was not there. Carol glanced up, and when she saw me, her lips curled into that same smug smile she always wore, the one that made me want to scream. Ashley did not even acknowledge me. She was too busy scrolling on her phone, acting like none of this had anything to do with her. I took a deep breath and walked away. I was not about to let them ruin this for me. Grandpa had been there for me when no one else was, and I was not going to let their presence make me forget that. Still, it was hard to focus on anything else. Every time I looked around, I caught glimpses of them out of the corner of my eye. My dad laughing with some uncle, Carol whispering to one of the aunts, Ashley flipping her hair like she was still the queen of the world. It was not until Grandpa stood up to give his toast that things really started to unravel. "Thank you all for being here," he began, raising his glass. The crowd quieted down, everyone turning to listen. "I feel so lucky to have lived 75 wonderful years surrounded by such an incredible family." He went on for a bit, sharing stories about his childhood, his marriage to Grandma, and how proud he was of his kids and grandkids. It was sweet, and I could tell it meant a lot to him to have everyone there. But then his tone shifted. "There is one more thing I need to say," he said, his voice a little sharper now, something that has been weighing on my heart. The room went completely silent. I glanced around, and I was not the only one who looked confused. Grandpa set his glass down and took a deep breath. "A few years ago, my son James," he paused, looking directly at my dad. "James lost a very important watch, a watch that meant a lot to him. At the time, it caused quite a bit of conflict in the family. My chest tightened. I could feel everyone's eyes turning toward me. My dad's face turned pale, and Carol stiffened in her seat. Ashley was frozen, her expression unreadable. I wanted to disappear. But recently," Grandpa continued, "I have found out what really happened to that watch." The tension in the room was unbearable. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Grandpa reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. "An old friend of mine runs a pawn shop," he said, and we were reminiscing about the good old days when he mentioned something that caught my attention. He told me about a very particular watch someone had brought in to sell a few years back. Turns out that someone was Ashley. The silence that followed was deafening. My dad's face went from pale to red in seconds. Carol's mouth fell open, but no words came out. Ashley just sat there frozen like a deer caught in headlights. Grandpa was not done. According to my friend, Ashley said she needed the money for car repairs after an accident she did not want her father to know about. She told him she would figure out a way to cover her tracks, and it seemed she did by blaming someone else. All eyes were on Ashley now. My dad turned to her, his voice low and shaking. "Ashley, is this true?" she stammered, her face flushing. She did not mean. Carol jumped in, trying to salvage the situation. "James, she was young. She made a mistake." "A mistake?" Grandpa's voice cut through the air like a knife. "When you destroyed someone's life over a mistake, you let this girl," he gestured toward me, "be kicked out of her home while you sat back and did nothing. That is not a mistake, Carol, that is cruelty." I could not stay. My head was spinning, my chest felt tight, and I could barely breathe. Without a word, I slipped out the door, leaving the chaos behind. I did not want to see their reactions. I did not want to hear the excuses or the justifications. I just needed to get out of there. As I walked to my car, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, anger, sadness, and something I could not quite name. After all these years, the truth was finally out. But it did not feel like a victory. It just felt hollow. When I slipped out of Grandpa's party that night, I felt like I had been hit by a truck. My emotions were all over the place: anger, sadness, relief, and something I could not even name. I did not feel victorious, even though the truth about the watch was finally out. If anything, I felt more lost than ever. The air outside was cool, and I stood there for a moment, trying to catch my breath. I could still hear the faint murmur of conversation from inside the farmhouse, but I could not make out the words. My hands were shaking, and I gripped the keys in my pocket to steady myself. I just needed to leave. I climbed into my car and drove aimlessly for a while, not ready to go home and face the silence of my apartment. I thought I would feel vindicated when the truth came out. For 4 years I had carried the weight of being falsely accused, and now everyone knew I was not the thief. But instead of feeling free, I just felt empty. My phone buzzed in the cup holder, pulling me out of my thoughts. I glanced at the screen and saw a missed call from my dad, then another, and another. By the time I pulled over to check my messages, he had left 3 voicemails. I hesitated for a moment before hitting play. The first message started with his voice trembling. He said, "I am sorry, okay? I did not know. I did not want to believe it, but I guess I was wrong. Just call me back, please." The second was shorter, but more desperate. "God, I do not know how to fix this. I need to talk to you. Can we meet, please?" The third one, though, took a different tone. "I cannot believe you let Dad humiliate me like that in front of the whole family. You should have told me what he was planning. This is not how families handle things. We need to talk." I stared at the phone in disbelief. He is blaming me. After everything he put me through, after believing Ashley and Carol over me without a second thought, he had the nerve to act like I was the one who betrayed him. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and started driving again, trying to make sense of it all. The next morning, I woke up to more messages. My dad had sent a string of texts that ranged from apologizing to accusing me of turning Grandpa against him. Carol had not reached out, and neither had Ashley. Not that I expected them to, but hearing from my dad just made everything more confusing. What did he want from me? An apology? Forgiveness? I did not have any answers, but I knew one thing. I was not ready to face him. Grandpa called me later that day. His voice was calm but concerned, and I could tell he felt guilty about what happened at the party. "I am sorry if I put you in an uncomfortable position," he said. "I thought it was time the truth came out, but I did not mean to hurt you in the process." "It is not your fault," I said quickly, and I meant it. If it were not for Grandpa, the truth might never have come out. I am glad you said something. I do not know how to feel about any of it. He was quiet for a moment. "Take your time," he said. "You do not have to figure it all out right now, but just know whatever you decide, whether you want to talk to your dad or not, I will support you." Hearing those words made me tear up. Grandpa had always been the one steady presence in my life, the one person who did not make me feel like I was a problem to be solved. I thanked him and promised to visit soon, though I did not know when I would feel ready. In the days that followed, my dad's messages kept coming. At first, they were filled with apologies, promises to make things right, and pleas for me to meet with him. But as I kept ignoring them, his tone shifted. The texts became more accusatory, filled with lines like, "I do not know why you are shutting me out," and "This is not just about you. You are tearing the family apart." "The family? What family? The one that threw me out like I was trash? The one that let Ashley and Carol walk all over me for years?" I could not believe he had the audacity to frame it that way. Every message he sent just made me angrier, but I still could not bring myself to respond. I did not know what to say. Or maybe I just did not think it would make a difference. As for Ashley and Carol, they stayed silent. I did not hear a single word from either of them, which was fine by me. I did not want their fake apologies or half-hearted excuses. They had done enough damage, and I had no interest in giving them another chance to hurt me. But of course, that was not the end of it. A week after the party, I got a call from one of my cousins. She was always the family gossip, and she wasted no time filling me in on everything that had happened after I left. According to her, the party turned into a disaster the moment Grandpa finished his toast. My dad tried to defend Ashley, claiming it was just a misunderstanding, but Grandpa shut him down, saying there was no misunderstanding when it came to lying and stealing. Carol tried to play the victim, saying Grandpa had ruined the family's reputation by airing their dirty laundry in public, but no one was buying it. By the end of the night, most of the relatives were whispering about how Ashley and Carol had manipulated my dad for years, and how he had been blind to it. It was the first time in my life I had felt like anyone on that side of the family actually saw the truth. My cousin also told me that Ashley had stormed out in tears, refusing to talk to anyone while Carol stayed behind trying to do damage control. My dad apparently just sat there looking like he did not know what to do. Hearing all of this should have made me feel better, like justice had finally been served, but instead it just made me sad. Sad that it had taken this long for the truth to come out. Sad that my dad was only realizing now how much he had screwed up. Sad that even with the truth out in the open, I still did not feel like I had gotten any closure. A few days later, my dad showed up at my apartment. He did not call ahead or ask if I was home. He just knocked on the door like he had every right to be there. When I opened it and saw him standing there, I felt my chest tighten. He looked tired, older than I remembered, and his eyes had this desperate look in them that I did not know how to process. "We need to talk," he said. I stood there for a moment, gripping the edge of the door. Part of me wanted to slam it in his face, but another part of me, the part that still craved his approval no matter how much I hated it, told me to hear him out. "Fine," I said, stepping aside to let him in. "Talk." I stood there, gripping the edge of the door as my dad shuffled into my apartment. He looked smaller than I remembered, like the weight of everything that had happened had finally caught up to him. He did not say anything at first, just glanced around my apartment like he was trying to place me in this new version of my life. I crossed my arms and waited, my stomach twisting into knots. "Nice place," he said awkwardly, finally breaking the silence. "Thanks," I replied flatly. I was not going to make this easy for him, not after everything. "What do you want?" He looked at me like I just slapped him, but I did not feel bad about it. He was not here to catch up or make small talk. He had a purpose, and I was not going to let him dance around it. "I came to apologize," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I know I screwed up big time. I should have believed you, and I did not. I let them convince me you were lying, and that was wrong." I stared at him, trying to gauge whether he actually meant it or if he was just saying what he thought I wanted to hear. "It took you 4 years to figure that out." His shoulders sagged and he looked down at the floor. I know. I was blind. I wanted to believe Carol and Ashley because it was easier than admitting that my family was not perfect. I did not want to face the fact that they could lie to me like that. And I do not know, maybe I was afraid you would turn out like your mom. There it was, the thing he always threw in my face. I felt my jaw tighten. "You mean the mom you divorced and called crazy every chance you got?" He winced, but did not argue. "You know, I said some things I should not have about her, about you. I was wrong, and I see that now. So, you see it now?" I shot back, my voice rising. "It took Grandpa blowing up your perfect little bubble for you to even consider that maybe I was not the problem. Do you have any idea what it was like for me being thrown out like I was nothing? And for what? A watch Ashley stole to fix her car." "Oh, I know," he said quietly. "I cannot imagine how much that hurt you." I laughed bitterly. "You cannot imagine? You do not have to imagine, Dad. You lived it. You made it happen." He flinched, and for a moment I thought he was going to leave. Part of me hoped he would. But instead, he took a deep breath and looked me in the eye. "You are right," he said. "I failed you as a father. I let you down when you needed me most, and I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I am asking for it anyway." The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard for a second. I did not know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive him, to let go of the anger that had been eating at me for years, but another part of me, the part that still felt like a 17-year-old kid standing on the sidewalk with a duffel bag, could not let him off the hook so easily. "I do not know if I can forgive you," I said finally. "Not yet." Anyway, he nodded like he expected that answer. "I understand. I want to fix things if I can. I want to be part of your life again." I shook my head, frustration bubbling up inside me. "You do not get to just walk back into my life and act like nothing happened. You let them ruin everything for me, and now you want to fix it. How? What could you possibly do to make up for 4 years of ignoring me?" He did not have an answer for that. He just stood there looking lost and ashamed. And maybe that should have made me feel better, but it did not. It just made me feel more empty. "I do not know what to say," he admitted. "I cannot change what I did. All I can do is tell you how sorry I am and hope you will give me a chance to make things right." I stared at him for a long moment, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain I had felt all those years, but another part of me just felt tired. Tired of carrying the anger, tired of reliving the betrayal, tired of trying to figure out what I owed him, if I owed him anything at all. "I need time," I said finally. "I cannot just let this go. I need to figure out where I stand with you." He nodded again, his face heavy with emotion. "Take all the time you need. I will be here when you are ready." For a moment I almost felt sorry for him, almost. But then I remembered all the nights I spent crying myself to sleep, all the times I begged him to listen to me, and the sympathy vanished. "I think you should go," I said, stepping back toward the door. He hesitated like he wanted to say more, but then he nodded and walked past me. "I am sorry," he said again as he stepped out into the hallway, "for everything." I closed the door behind him and leaned against it, my chest heaving with a mix of emotions I could not even name. Relief, sadness, anger, closure maybe. I was not sure yet. In the days that followed, I started to process everything. Grandpa called to check in on me, and I told him about the conversation with my dad. He did not try to push me one way or the other, just listened and let me vent. It helped more than I expected. My dad kept his promise and did not contact me again, though I knew the door was open if I ever wanted to reach out. As for Ashley and Carol, I did not hear a peep from them, and that was perfectly fine with me. I did not need or want their apologies. Final update. About a week after my conversation with my dad, Grandpa called me over to his place. He sounded serious, almost grim, which was not like him at all. When I arrived, he had a stack of papers spread out on his coffee table. "I have been doing some digging," he said, "and what I found is worse than I thought." It turned out that Grandpa, in his frustration over the watch incident, had started going through old financial records for the family business. My dad, Carol, and Ashley had been living comfortably off family money for years, but something about the way they handled their finances had never sat right with him. What Grandpa discovered was shocking. Carol and Ashley had not just lied about the watch. They had been running a string of financial scams behind my dad's back for years. They had siphoned money from the business accounts, taken out credit cards in my dad's name, and even racked up debt on loans he did not know existed. The watch incident was just the tip of the iceberg. Grandpa's voice was calm but firm as he laid it all out. "Your dad has no idea how much trouble they have gotten him into," he said, "and frankly, he has let them get away with it for too long." I was floored. I always knew Carol and Ashley were manipulative, but this was next level. Grandpa told me he had already consulted with his lawyer and decided to take drastic action. "My father is not responsible enough to handle the family legacy," he said, "and I will be damned if Carol and Ashley get their hands on a single cent." In one swift move, Grandpa disinherited my dad. Everything that was supposed to go to him, money, property, trust funds, was being redirected. A significant portion was now going to me, which I did not even know how to process. "I am not doing this to punish your father," Grandpa said. "I am doing it to protect you and the family's future. He made his choices, and now he has to live with the consequences." The fallout was immediate. Grandpa did not waste any time putting his plan into action, and within days my dad found out he had been cut off. The house they were living in, which Grandpa technically owned, was put on the market. My dad was given an ultimatum. He could stay in the house, but only if Carol and Ashley left. Predictably, my dad refused. Carol and Ashley were his family after all, and he could not imagine turning his back on them. So, Grandpa followed through and began the process of evicting them. They had 30 days to vacate. The news sent Carol into a tailspin. She tried everything, begging, guilt-tripping, even threatening to sue Grandpa, but none of it worked. Grandpa's lawyer had made sure every loophole was closed, leaving Carol with no legal ground to stand on. Ashley, meanwhile, was spiraling. With no money to fall back on, she was scrambling to pay off her debts. At one point, she even reached out to me, sending a long, rambling text about how sorry she was and how much pressure Carol had put on her. I did not respond. She could blame Carol all she wanted, but at the end of the day, Ashley was a grown adult who had made her own choices. She ruined my relationship with my dad and turned my life upside down. I did not owe her anything. As for my dad, he was a mess. The man who had once been so sure of himself, so quick to judge and condemn me, was now on the verge of losing everything. He kept trying to contact me, alternating between apologizing and blaming Grandpa for turning me against him. I only responded once. Until you take full responsibility for what happened, I do not want to hear from you. You made your choice when you believed Carol and Ashley over me. Now you have to live with it. I do not know if he will ever truly understand how much he hurt me. Maybe he is too wrapped up in his own guilt to see the bigger picture. Or maybe he just does not care. Either way, I am done trying to fix something that is so clearly broken. The one bright spot in all of this has been Grandpa. He has been my rock through everything, always reminding me that I am not alone. We have gotten closer than ever, and he has made it clear that he wants to support me however he can. I cannot undo what they did to you, he told me recently, but I can make sure you have the future you deserve. Hearing that means the world to me. For so long, I felt like I did not matter to anyone, but now I know that is not true. The dust is still settling. My dad, Carol, and Ashley are out of the house and trying to figure out their next move. Carol filed for divorce, probably thinking she could get a big payout, but there is nothing left for her to take. Ashley has gone radio silent, which is fine by me. As for me, I am finally at peace. I do not know what the future holds, but for the first time in years, I feel like I am in control of my own life. Grandpa was right. They made their bed, and now they have to lie in it.